Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to another edition of the Therapy Couch Podcast. I am your host, TJ Jones. Happy to be with you. Thank you for tuning in, no matter where you are, wherever you may be. Really do appreciate your time. This is a podcast where we talk about life. We don't talk about sports on this podcast. Won't be talking about any type of sports of any kind. Probably use some sports analogies every now and then, but we're going to be just talking about things that are going on in the world. From some of you that are new, the reason why I started the Therapy Couch Podcast is because there are different layers to who I am as a person. Like most of you have been introduced to me. If you're watching this on the State of the Saints Podcast Network channel, you've been introduced to me because of sports, right? My love for sports, but there's so many different sides of me that I like to put out there. I love sports, but, I keep up with what's going on in the world. And I have a lot to say, not just about some of the things in the world at large, but also some things that, I deal with personally, things that I've experienced. And I like to bring them to this podcast. If somebody can learn from that, then fine, but it's very, very important to me that, I share different sides of myself with individuals. But on this edition, we're going to be talking about setting goals for yourself, and not being afraid of rejection. There's a lot of people, including myself, that are afraid of rejection. They're afraid of the word no. And for a long time, I was afraid of the word no. And then sometimes I'm still afraid of the word no. But sometimes no can be a yes down the line, or it can be a not right now. And I wanted to share this story. And the reason why I deemed this episode Momma, I Made It is because I reached a milestone as a podcaster, broadcaster. I became a member of the media a couple of weeks ago. I officially became officially a part of the NFL media, as well as just media in general. I got opportunity to go out to Mobile, Alabama, to the Senior Bowl, and that was a great experience for me. And I'm not trying to rub it in or trying to brag or boast or anything like that, because if you've been following my journey and you've been following here, as far as me doing broadcasting, where I started. I started basically in my apartment closet, right? I said this on several occasions, and I say it all the time here because I need to drive this home. I started off in my apartment closet using my phone to record content. And now I'm out here talking and interacting with people I see on TV every single day. when I walked up to the stadium, Hancock Stadium in Mobile, Alabama, and they gave me my press pass, and I'm walking in, I'm standing in the bleachers, right? I'm standing there, and I just couldn't believe it. For like a short period of time, I just could not believe this was actually happening. And it got even more real when you go through different spots, right? They scan your there's a QR code on the back of your press pass, and they scan it. So I guess for every level that you have access to, right? It gives you a check mark. So I go down towards the field, and they scan it, and they let me through. And I'm there standing on the field, and to my left, I'm looking at NFL scout Todd McShay. And on the right, I'm looking at NFL insider Even Rappaport. These are people that I see all the time. And I just could not believe it. But I would be hard pressed not to think at that time about some of the obstacles I went through in order for me to get to this point. And all the no's that I've heard. I've heard people say all the time, they say, "Oh, you're good. You have something to say," but you got a New Orleans draw, a country draw. I don't know how that's going to translate with radio. I've heard that before. I went to a radio station, and I tried to apply for a job, and the guy told me that I need to read a newspaper. I need to read a newspaper so I can learn how to enunciate my words. And I can remember leaving there, very, very upset and frustrated, and thinking to myself, I don't think I ever will be on air. I don't think I will ever be in broadcasting. I don't think I will ever get to a point where people actually care enough about what I got to say. And that was during a time when I was young, and I just could not receive rejection. I hated rejection. I thought the rejection was an indication that I just was not good enough. I told some of you that I minored in theater. My minor was theater at Jackson State University. And I used to be in plays. I was in several plays at Jackson State University throughout the 3 years that I was there. Some of you know my freshman year, I went to Dillon University. So I went to Jackson State for 3 years. And I was in a play called Ceremonies and Dark Old Men. I'll never forget this. And my college professor, also my director, Dr. Mark G. Henderson, was giving me directions on the stage because I had one of those roles. I wasn't, star-studded. I wasn't the best actor in the world. That went to like some of the other guys out there. I have a good friend of mine, Rob Demery, who played in a lot of different movies. He played in Get On Up. He played the drummer in that. A Lifetime movie about Mahalia Jackson. He played Martin Luther King. He's on Broadway. That was his role, But I played the role of his brother Bobby in a play of Ceremonies and Dark Old Men. And Bobby's character was a character that didn't have many lines, but he was always on stage. I was always on stage. So I don't know if you know this or not. And for those that are into acting or have been in a play, like you have to constantly move. But anyway, I was always on stage, and sometimes I get lost, right? I'll just be standing there looking at people deliver their lines. And I remember my college professor telling me, well, you're supposed to be moving. What are you doing? What are you doing? And at that time, it wasn't registering, right? He was giving me direction, but at the same time, all I can hear is I wasn't good enough, right? And I remember one time when, he asked me, he was like, "Do you want to act?" And I can remember telling him no. But at the time, I wanted to. But it was just the fact that I was feeling rejected, right? So I kind of went into a fetal position and, okay, and I gave him that response. And that always stuck with me, and it still sticks with me to this day. How I was so easy to quit because I didn't want to, hear the rejection or hear the criticism, right? And I wish I can tell you that it stopped there, but it didn't. And it carried throughout my young life, especially through my 20s. And there were a lot of times where I quit doing things that I knew that I was capable of doing because somebody gave me, bad criticism or they told me no. There was a time when I was working at CBS Pharmacy. I was an assistant manager, and every year you have an evaluation. And I remember going into the office, and I'm going to call his name out, Mr. John Rubin, because I feel like this is, this is one of the moments, right, where I prove somebody wrong. But we went into the office, and he was telling me about my management style and how I was too buddy with people. And I know you look at yourself like a leader, but in reality, you're not. And I remember that moment. I never got cut. Like, you can say a lot of things about me, but I don't think I ever heard anybody tell me that I wasn't a leader. But anyway, I wish I could tell you that I didn't, told him to, get out my face, but it stuck with me. And for a long time, I felt like I didn't have those leadership qualities because of what he said. Sometimes, in life, you gotta dust that kind of stuff off, because if you're not sure of yourself, then you'll find yourself believing what people are actually telling you. And I didn't have very much belief in myself. I know what I wanted to do. I knew what I felt like I was destined to be. But at that time, it didn't take much in order to bring down my self-esteem. I think that I had a goal, which was being in broadcasting, but there was always like different obstacles in my way. Always different obstacles that I had to go through, and I wasn't strong enough as a person to be able to navigate through them. When people told me these things, I believed them, and I didn't have enough strength within myself to pick myself up at times. And I'll tell you when it happened. It happened during a pandemic. Yes, it didn't happen 5 years ago. It ain't happened 10 years ago. No, it happened a couple of years ago during a pandemic. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll never forget this as long as I live. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and my wife was asleep in a bed with my son. And I can remember standing in the sill of the door looking at both of them. It was a few days before me and my wife, we were going to get married. And I remember, like, this was in the infancy of the State of the Saints podcast. And I looked at both of them, and I thought about these two individuals who motivate me so much. I got to give them my all. And I got to find that moment. I got to find that inside of me that I can push out and really walk into my purpose. And if you notice, if you start watching around 2020, August of 2020, you start seeing more interviews on the State of the Saints podcast. It wasn't because I hired somebody. It wasn't because I got a management team. It's because I was willing to accept the word no. When I asked somebody to come to the show, I was willing to hear the word no. What's the worst that can happen is what I'm saying. And that's when things start to kind of change with the podcast. It's because I, at that particular point, decided that I was going to be fearless. You're going to hear a lot of no's if you're trying to build something. You're going to hear a lot of no's if you are trying to build something, create something, and that's okay. And that's okay. But you have to believe in yourself so much that you can rise above the no. And that's something that I accepted. And am I where I want to be? No, absolutely not. I talk to my mom all the time, and she tells me, well, you need to, do this workshop here, or, talk to people about how they need to start, a podcast or something going. And I think to myself, like, who am I to do that? Because contrary to popular belief, I know that, you look at the State of Saints podcast sometimes and you see people come on to the show and all that, but I feel like I'm just like everybody else. I pay my bills just like everybody else. I have like, different situations that I go through just like everybody else. I mean, it's no different. So sometimes, I look at that and I'm like, man, who am I to tell people what they need to do? Because in some ways I don't even know, how did I do it? I can give people an idea about some of the steps I did, but nevertheless, it's all about having a fearless spirit. That's the one thing I would tell anybody that's trying to do anything is to have a fearless spirit. And once you do that, I think everything else is going to take care of itself. And I think that's the reason why the podcast started to grow. I think that's why I just started to grow as a person, I believe. And I started to appreciate those steps, those moments in which, got me to this point. And I'm happy where I am right now. And I want to continue to be the best I can possibly be. And I love doing what I do. And no, I'm not the best, like talker. I'm not the best storyteller, but I like to think that, I'm one of the best. And if I'm not, then I'm trying to get to that point. And I think about that, all the people that told me that, I wasn't a leader, all the people that told me that I wasn't going to make it in broadcasting, all the people that told me that I was just wasting my time doing a podcast. I talk about my uncle, even my uncle asking me how much money I'm making for doing a podcast. And now I'm doing something that I love, and I don't even care about the money. I don't care about, all the things that come with it. I just want to do what I love to do, which is broadcasting. And I want to be fearless doing it. And I feel like if I do that, then everything else is going to take care of itself. So when I stepped out there on that field at the Senior Bowl, it was like one of the best moments of my life, because it was a testament to a lot of things of hard work and dedication. Like, nobody makes me do these podcasts. Nobody makes me come up with this content. I took it upon myself to do that, and now it got me to this point. And it just kind of solidified all the things that, I wondered about. Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And look where I'm at. I didn't have corporate backing. Like, I look at, some people out there, like, they had corporate backing. They got, companies, funding them. I didn't have that. I'm independent. Like, nobody funds me. Like, most of the endorsements and stuff that I work with for a short amount of time, I got that through, word of mouth, emails, or somebody like hitting me up. So that was a testament, to a lot of hard work. And I was extremely humbled by that. So anybody that tells you that, it's a mistake, or, you're wasting your time, man, if you believe in yourself, if you believe in your dreams, if you believe in what you're doing, can't nobody stop you from reaching your full potential. Don't let anybody stop you from reaching your full potential. Whatever you love to do, because sometimes people aren't going to understand it, and that's fine. That's fine. But one day they ain't gonna have no choice. And that's the road that I decided I wanted to take. And I'm gonna read some of your comments, and then we'll go on. Say, wow, that is a blessing, TJ. Keep up the hard work. I appreciate that, man. I mean, it is a blessing. It is. I'm not gonna lie. And like I said, I'm not where I want to be. Like, I still aspire to do more, but I appreciate these type of steps. It just made me realize that it's not in vain. Like, I'm not just like wasting my time, even though I never felt that way, while I was like throughout the time I was doing a podcast, because I love it. And that's something that I would do for free because I'm so passionate about it. But, every now and then you want something, to let you know that this is what I want to, this is what I need to be doing. You're doing the right thing. You're heading in the right direction. Even if it's something, it can be something small, but you still want that indication. And, being out there, that was an indicator for me. TJ, did you enjoy the halftime show by my human jukebox at the Senior Bowl? Man, they were really great. I ain't gonna lie. I didn't catch halftime. I didn't watch the entire game. I left because I had a 10-hour drive from Mobile, Alabama, back home to Myrtle Beach. And I didn't want to, I knew I had to be at work on Monday, right? I had to be at work here at the radio station on Monday. And I didn't want to be traveling on a Sunday and be so burnt that I'd be so tired at work on Monday. So I decided that I was going to leave. So I left maybe like around, about 1:30 Central Time. Made a couple stops, had to stop at the local Church's Chicken. Don't judge me because there's no Church's Chicken in Myrtle Beach, right? So I'll tell y'all the story. So I like churches. My wife laughs at me. She makes fun of me, because, churches is like, one of my guilty pleasures. I love going to churches because they don't have them, and they have these jalapeno cheese bombers that I like. So I always got to get at least 12 of them things. I'm sorry. All right. But but I had to stop at the churches before I left. So, and so, but after I got me some churches, all right, I ended up hitting the road. And but I really enjoyed Southern University. Southern University, they actually started the game, right? I know they played at halftime, but they started the game. They played a few songs, and they played the national anthem, of course. But I mean, they sounded really good. I ain't gonna hate on them. I ain't gonna hate on Southern. Like I said, I have no problem with Southern unless they playing Jackson State. I mean, that's pretty much obvious, right? I mean, I went to the school, so of course I want my school to win, of course. But anyway, I don't have any problem with Southern University. They sounded really good out there at the Senior Bowl. TJ, have you ever knew you were on a what's that? I'm sorry. I don't know what word that is, or something big and hesitant, or turn your back on it. I'm trying to think about it. Have I knew that I was on some pat or something big, or hesitant, or turn your back on it? I don't know if I ever turned my back on it. I don't know if I turned my back on. I'm trying to see, have I ever done that? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I ever like rejected anything, or something I felt like that was like big and I hesitated. No, I mean, I feel like, I've always had moments, and anything, like I felt like I never felt like nothing was like too good for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I never felt that way. I never been afraid or shied away from opportunities. I never did that. I never shied away from like any type of opportunities. If opportunity presents itself, I'm there. So I ain't never been like afraid like that. Like, like I've always been pretty much, like, if it calls me to like really put in the work, I do it. If I ain't never shy away from no opportunity like that. I will say that. I will say I ain't never shied away from no opportunity. Let's see. Big facts. Anyone getting knocked down only makes them come back stronger. Yeah. I mean, look, you're gonna get knocked down throughout life. But you gotta pick yourself, you gotta pick yourself back up. And you can't be afraid to you can't be afraid to fail. And you can't be afraid to know your limitations, like, or be afraid to man, you got to be able to be fearless. That's the best thing I can tell anybody. and you got to be honest with yourself. Like me, like not knowing that word. What's that? Precipice? I guess that is precipice, what she said. And I got to look that up, but it's about being real with yourself. It's about being real. Like I've, one thing that I try to do is just be honest with myself. Like I don't try to be something that I'm not. I don't want to be something that I'm not. If it's something that I'm, limited at, I try to, build on it. I don't try to, I feel like that stunts a lot of growth too. It stunts a lot of growth when you are not real with yourself. We spend most of our time not getting where we need to be because we're not true to ourselves. We stay lying to ourselves about who we are or what we want, or, like I feel like, social media plays a huge role in that, because social media kind of trains us at times to be something that we not, because we're looking at people's highlights and we comparing their highlights to our lives, our actual real lives, so we try to fake the funk. Like I ain't faking, like I don't, like that's one thing I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna fake. That's why when people like criticize some things that I say, I don't like sit up there and just care, to that particular point, because I don't think you should ever be afraid to say you're sorry. You should never be afraid if somebody makes a point, a better point than you, to say, you know what, you're right. I feel like sometimes people spend way too much time trying to navigate truth and trying to spin it. Like I sometimes 2 + 2 is always going to be 4. Like there's no need for you to talk about, well, if you add 2 more, then you got 6. Like sometimes the truth is just right there. And like I said, I just think that we have this alternate reality, that we try to fight, right? And we don't even have to do it. Like just stay true to yourself. Like just be real with yourself. Every episode, for the most part, I tell you, I don't feel like it's a coincidence that I reach certain levels and continue to reach certain levels when I start being myself. Like, I don't feel like that's a coincidence when that happened. When I tried to be somebody else, it didn't work out. It didn't work out because not so much I couldn't make it work out. I could have, but down the line, I probably wouldn't have liked what I saw in the mirror because I knew that it was disingenuous and it wasn't true. And I would have been doing it for nefarious reasons, right? To create some type of persona. That's why I tell you, like, I don't care about what other people are doing. I don't care about how other people deliver news. I don't care how other people deliver sports or whatever thing that they're doing. I'm not trying to be like anybody else, because if I'm trying to be like them, how great would that be, right? Because anybody that listens or watches, they'll think that I'm just trying to be a carbon copy of that individual. So it's good for you to just be yourself. It's good for you to be able to like what you like, love what you love, be okay with it, right? Like love the skin you in. And, I enjoyed it. That's something that I think that people need to understand. Like it's okay. It's okay to, to fail. It's okay to not like something. It's okay to have, a corny joke or two. It's okay not to care about what the latest fashions is and all that kind of stuff. It's okay for you not to care about, going certain places. Like it's okay with that. You don't have to fall into this category that everybody, a person that you see, follows. It's okay just to be yourself. I guarantee you be yourself, you'll be happy. You are a guy with a great heat that can be helpful to the next man. Being helpful doesn't mean you're unhumble. That's all I meant. Well, all I'm saying is when, this is my mom talking. All I'm saying is when I said that, I don't look at myself like as, I just never will. I don't care where God takes me. I just look at myself as an everyday person. Like I sit down and I talk to my wife about bills just like everybody else, right? It's not like, I'm rolling in dough, millionaire or something like that. I pay my bills just like everybody else. We need to put the gas, the gas in the car. Like, so it's like when people like, man, tell me what you do and tell me how you do this. Like, I can tell you that, but I say, man, it just if I can inspire people, that's great. But I just don't I don't think I ever will see myself in, regard, because I don't know, man. Maybe it's like the people that I've interacted with throughout my lifetime that's in certain spots. They can be a little bit on the jerk side, or they just walk around as if they know all the answers. And if you don't listen to them, then you ain't gonna never be nothing. Like, I don't know, man, because certain things work for certain people. Like, I can tell you what I did or how I present certain things, but it don't mean it's gonna work out for you, because we're all different. There's certain levels of there's certain levels of creativity that one person have that another person may not have. You might be extremely creative, but you may not be able to present that creativity the way that you envision it, right? But you will be able to create it, and you can give it to somebody else, and you can see like your creation shine through. So I don't know. Like, I guess that's what I'm getting at. Like, I'm everybody else. Let's see. Congrats, bro. Stay self-motivated. You never know who else you inspire. Well, look, if I inspire people, then that's great. There's so many people out there that inspire me, and I tell them, several people that's in media, that inspire me. I have opportunity to talk to some of the people that, I grew up watching, and people that I have mad respect for. And, people I talk to behind the scenes, I have so much respect for them. And if I can encourage anybody, that's a plus. I missed it, TJ. I wasn't in here. What happened? Well, nothing happened, man. This is actually the Therapy Couch podcast. So we not talking. I don't know if you're talking about as far as sports, but we're talking about, we talking about life as far as, not being afraid, being courageous, stepping out on faith, believing in yourself on this episode. Churches, that's the Ellis Avenue thing. No, that's a that's a St. Claude thing. That's a Gentilly thing. There's anywhere churches are located. That's a thing, right? Yeah, that's all we would probably eat from there is those and okra. Yeah, and the biscuit and the mashed potatoes. Yeah, I mean, look, I know people ain't a real big fan of the chicken. I ain't gonna lie, that spicy chicken that I ate was pretty doggone good. All right, look, don't judge me. All right, I'm telling you, I love church chicken. All right, and when I get a chance to get my hands on some church chicken, I do it. My dad always told us, shoot for the moon. If you miss the moon, you are still among the stars. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you gotta constantly, try to push towards your goals, and if you're not there, then, at least, you tried, and you might get further than you even thought. Hugh said, what's up, my friend? Appreciate you being here, Hugh. I listen to TJ every day at work with the one earbud tucked in my right ear. Well, I appreciate that, man. I thank you for that, man. For everybody that listens to what, I got to say, I appreciate it, because you can be doing other things. So you definitely can be doing other things. I'll be remiss if I ain't talk about the whole Tyree Nichols thing. Tyree Nichols, of course, the FedEx worker from Memphis, Tennessee, who lost his life due to police brutality. I haven't talked about this. I know this happened a while back, and I haven't gotten a chance, got around to talking about it because of, the podcast thing and going out of town. But it was just sad. And then on top of that, it took me a while because I only seen maybe like 5 seconds of the video. I didn't see the entire thing. Didn't want to see it, to be honest with you. Well, why would somebody want to sit up there and just watch somebody just get the daylights beat out of them? I just don't know. But anyway, of course, we know, 5 cops got arrested for savagely beating Tyree Nichols, regardless to what the dude did, still. Why are you out here doing some stuff like that? And everybody had an opinion. What is it? What is it? Is it the system? Is it the green light for white supremacy for these black cops? What is it? All I know is, man, to me, it's a power thing. What I mean by that is it takes a special person to be in a position of power to not abuse said power. That's why, to me, I feel like there are certain people that can't be leaders. Not that they don't have that in them. I just feel like if you are a person that is going to put yourself above anybody else, then you probably won't be a good leader, right? There are certain people, I used to hear this all the time. I'm not going to call out no names, but when I was working, in the management field, I would have these meetings that I go to. And of course, like you're at these meetings all day with other managers and you're sitting at the table, y'all having lunch, and all of them are just talking about the employee. Well, not all of them. I don't want to put everybody in that box, but some of them are talking about how they told their worker, as they call them, I told them to do this, and they looked at me, and I looked at them. I said, I'm the manager. Like, I don't have to do that. I'm like, when I hear people say stuff like that, it really like irks me, because as a manager, I didn't care. Like, I wasn't one of them people. Like, I don't feel like I should clean the bathrooms. Towards the end of closing time, you clean the bathroom. I was never like that. Like, I'll be up in there with the bleach and the mop. Because I felt like people want to know that you got their back, that you support them, like that you're not telling them to do something you wouldn't do. So I always prided myself to do stuff that I would ask other people to do. So if they didn't do it, I'd be like, you just seen me do it. So what can they do? When you're in a position of power, it's very, very important for you not to abuse said power. What they did to that kid was an abuse of power, because they felt like there was nothing that guy could do, right? You could talk about based on his skin color, based on, some of the perception that they had of him, the way they looked at him, because, maybe, there was a level of prejudice. I feel like sometimes there is a level of prejudice that you have towards people that look like you. We see it all the time. Like, if a person, man, you got a little something, you're driving a little nice car, you got some nice shoes on or something like that. And maybe you see this other guy, you see this other guy, you probably just walking somewhere, like, and all of a sudden, like, maybe you feeling a little bit uptight, or you feel like, you can stick your nose up in the air. I feel like when you start thinking like that, that's a problem right there. We all, like, I don't want to say we all, but there are some level of prejudices, and maybe that was just one of those things. But regardless to what you think about a person, no matter if you see them all the time, walking around, there is somebody out there that cares about that person and thinks about them and values them more than anything in this world. And as they saw, there's a lot of people out there that value this young man. And the fact that they took it upon themselves to beat this man within an inch of his life for nothing, basically. I understand, like, I heard that he got out the car and started running, but who cares? Like, how many times have we seen people do way more egregious stuff than that? They end up still taking him to jail. And yeah, you probably mad because he got you running or something like that and you ain't want to run. But does the man really deserve to lose his life for that? It's just sad, man. It's just sad. And then, you talk about the system and how can it change. I don't care what legislation that you put out there. You can sign the greatest legislation you ever seen since the 64 Civil Rights Act, the 65 Voters' Right Act. You you can do all this legislation. You can't legislate heart. What I mean by that is you can't change the heart of man for them to look at a person as an actual human being. That's where it starts. It got to start with the changing of the hearts of the human being. So how do you do that? How do you change the hearts of a human being? There's this old saying, and I was watching Notorious the other day, right? And there was a line by Biggie Smalls. I don't know if he said this or not, but it was a very, very great line. He says, you can't change the world until you change ourselves. We can't change the world unless we change ourselves. And that's true. You can't change the world. You can't change what the world is if a person is not willing to change. I don't care what color they are. Because as you can see, this was, black cops beating up on a black, man. So you have to be able to change the hearts of man for them to understand and feel that there is actually a problem. And if we can't get to that point, then it will never change. It's no different from an AA meeting. They want you to stand up and say, my name is John Doe and I'm alcoholic. Why is that? And everybody just start clapping, right? Well, why are we clapping? What are we clapping for, right? This man just admitted that he's an alcoholic. This is sad, right? No, it's the first step for you to admit it, and you're saying it out loud. So it became a part of your truth. So until we get to that point where we realize that we actually have these problems and we actually want this legislation to be signed sometimes because it's because of how we feel about a certain individual. Until we actually change our minds and change our feelings and change our views about how we see the world, we're going to continue to be in the same situation that we're in. And we still are going to not have any type of love or compassion for one another. It's going to be almost like a crabs in a barrel. We're going to continuously be pulling each other down, right? When one of us gets to this top, we're going to be constantly trying to pull each other down, and we're going to continue to have this effect. And one day, this is not going to be our world. This is not going to be our world. I know we don't want to talk about our own immortality, but one day we're not going to be a part of this world. And what we leave behind will be our legacy. And what we leave behind, the way that the world goes on, is going to be at our hands. So we have to ask ourselves, what type of world do we want to leave behind? And I don't want to leave behind a world where people don't care about one another. I don't want to live in a world or leave behind a world where people judge me, before I even hit the room. I don't want that. I don't want anybody to judge me based on how I look. Because if you ever seen me up close, I can look at I'm a physically imposing person, to some people. I'm 6 feet, 215 pounds, got tattoos, but if a person didn't talk to me, for the most part, they wouldn't know that, I'm a professional broadcaster. They wouldn't know that, I'm a college graduate. And sometimes does that even matter? Probably not. So unless we change the heart of men, we're going to continue to have these problems. We're going to continue to go through these situations. And the question is, how do you do that? And I feel bad. I was watching this Tyree Nichols mom on television. And, you can see the hurt in her eyes, the pain, right? Because he was staying with him. He moved from where he was to move in with his mom and his dad, and to be able to get a job, right? And the thing that really bothers me is when people try to demonize people, right? Nobody's perfect. At the end of the day, nobody's perfect. You can be a really good person, but nobody's perfect. If somebody they can find something on you that you did, but people he's acting like he's just the greatest thing ever. Look, regardless if he's the greatest thing ever, he may not be the greatest thing to you, but he was somebody to somebody. And, that's one thing that really bothers me when they try to demonize people, when bad things happen to him. Regardless, he at worst, if he broke the law, least, you know what I'm saying, let him go to jail. Don't beat him within an inch of his life and let the law of the land prevail, but as far as like us trying to, evaluate a person of who a person is he worth caring about? Because that's what it comes down to. When you start bringing up dirt and what people did in the past, it's basically like you're trying to convince the world that this dude or this woman doesn't matter, right? When you start bringing up their transgressions. I don't care. I don't care what he did. He was important to somebody. So I just think that it's sad that we try to demonize people, and we don't even try to do it because we want the world to feel that way. We just want to have this contrarian spirit. Like the contrarian spirit is at an all-time high right now. Like it's the way that news is presented to us. It's the way that most of us get our sports. It's the way that most of us have conversations now. It's not about being right. It's about really just bumping people off, or, tricking them off the block, if you will, constantly moving the goalposts. Like that's what it's about, having this contrarian spirit. But I don't care what type of compelling argument that you tell me. That person matters to somebody. There's a person in jail right now that's probably serving 25, 30 years, but they're important to somebody. So just because that person isn't important to you, don't mean that person ain't important to somebody. And as you can see, Tyree Nichols was. And these 5 cops, unfortunately, they abused their power, and something is going to happen to them. But as far as we talking about what failed Tyree Nichols, I mean, it's those cops. It's the abuse of power. And like I said, it takes a special person to possess a certain level of power and not abuse it. I feel like when you are in a leadership role, that's when your character is really supposed to show, right? Because I think you can judge a person. You judge a person based on how they treat somebody that can do absolutely nothing for them. And even if they can do something for them, they can't do more for you than you can for them. That's how you really judge a person's character. Like I say it all the time. I say it on the State of the Saints when people were getting upset about all the coaches leaving the New Orleans Saints team, and I was just talking about how what would you want Dennis Allen or the front office to do? Would you want them like to hold them in place and keep them in the same position when they have an opportunity to prosper, an opportunity to grow? Like if you're in a leadership role, would you want to hold somebody down because it makes your job easier? Or would you look at that person and say, you got the potential and I want you to move on? Now, once again, you can judge a person based on, what you do for a person that you can do way more for than what they can do for you. And honestly, those guys, they just thought they were just above this guy. And unfortunately, he lost his life in the process. And unfortunately, they're going to lose their lives in the process as well. Let's see. Let's scroll down. That's beautiful, Miss Carolyn. We got churches in North Carolina. They do get you right. Yeah, I mean, look, all they got Unc is Bojangles out here. We got Bojangles, and you might have like a couple places that actually fry some chicken. You have a Popeyes too, but I mean, churches, them bombers hit different. I've been holding my tongue on Mr. Nichols, TJ. Yeah, I have too. Like I said, I only watched like 5 seconds of it. When I saw them holding this guy up while another police officer like cocked back and hit this dude with everything he had, like I was just disgusted. I cut it off. I refused to watch it after I watched the George Floyd video. Honestly, I never watched that. I never watched that. I mean, I watched clips, of course. I mean, you ain't got no choice, but I didn't watch. I mean, what was it, like 8+ minutes, 8 minutes, 42 seconds? Like, I didn't want to watch that. Some people seek positions of power for the express intent to abuse or misuse it. look, I think sometimes, like seriously, I don't want to even say everybody does that. I think some people want to be in a position because it elevates them, number one. It helps them monetarily, of course. You'll be able to take care of your family, be able to pay your bills. But I think sometimes people allow those positions to go to their heads. And sometimes they get so far off track, they forget about where they are. Like, I do feel like sometimes when people run for public office, I think that they really go into office really trying to create change. And then all of a sudden, like, they realize like how things work and they just become a part of the assembly line. I mean, I ain't saying everybody does that, but when you're in a position of power, sometimes if you're not careful, you'll find yourself using people for your own personal advantage. And like I said, it just takes a special person to do that, right? You know, like, oh, I make the schedule, you know, so I'm gonna make myself leave at 2:30, and you know, I'm gonna have this other person come in at 2:30. Like it's stuff like that, right? You know, like you don't have to do this. Like this person, you know, probably have two jobs, and the second job is the job that they're coming in, and you know they probably work overnight. I'm just using these as examples because I mean, you've been in management long enough. You hear stories, and you know that person, you know, gonna get off around 7. They need to sleep at least a couple hours before they actually show up to your job. So instead of you thinking about that, you thinking about getting off work where you don't have absolutely nothing to do, but it's just a simple fact you're the boss, you're the head honcho. Like it's stuff like that. Like when you start thinking more about yourself and the advantages that you have in your position, I feel like that's when the problems start. And you feel like you're untouchable. I agree with you. Some people should not be in a position of power. Absolutely. Not at all. I don't care who it is. You know, management, politically, you know, police, you know, like I don't care what you're doing. Some people don't need these positions. At least sometimes you have to see with the eye of the mind and listen to the ears of the heart. We will say this and that. Those cows truly have forgotten, and that's for everyone and anything who wears that costume and have Corbin in their skin. Well, yeah, sometimes, like I said, they, you know, I don't even want to think they forgot. Once again, like I just feel like it's that they're in a position of power. And, you know, I mean, how many times, seriously, how many times have we seen police officers, we driving up the highway, going about 90, 100 miles per hour, right? But if you was going 90, 100 miles per hour, they'll pull you over, you know? So if you was to go up to them and, you know, track them down, and then all of a sudden, like, they pull you over, be like, you know how fast you were going? And you be like, you know how fast you were going? But see, like, there's no crime. Like, there's no reason for them to have to fly down the road, but they do it. Why do they do it? Why does that happen? I don't know. I don't know why that happens, folks, but it happens. You know, sometimes people just misuse their power, you know, because they feel like they can. And that's what I feel like the rift comes in, right? When you have that particular power and you like telling people, shut up, you know, what you gonna do about it? Or you may not say it, but you carry yourself like that. You know, you carry yourself like that. Yes, Barbara, they did. They felt as though they were somehow different from their enslaved brothers and sisters. Look, I don't even want to say they felt like they was different. I just think that they thought like they was in a position of power. Look, this may sound crazy. Look, there are certain levels that people in power, their power can take them. And because they're police officers, there's a certain level of power they thought that they possessed over another human being. Just like I feel like when it comes like things that's political, things that they can actually sign into law to make things better for you and me, they don't. Because maybe this person right here, you know, offered them a check maybe getting some money on the side or something like that. And maybe, I don't know, if they make that person mad, that person wrote a big check for their campaign, and maybe that person won't do it again. But that means you looking out for yourself. So what do? Right? Look out for somebody, that if you sign something that it will make that person's life better, or do you look out for yourself and continue to pile on millions upon millions of dollars or thousands upon thousands of dollars, right? I just think that whatever position of power that you're in, if you are not careful, you will go far as you possibly can, and almost on a point of no return, like these cops did. Let's see. Strolling down. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate it. Said, had a guy here in Houston whom the police tased to death in the rain. That's awful, man. That's awful. I mean, I've had some encounters with the police. I remember when I first, I think I told this story before, but for those that didn't hear, so I was moving to South Carolina. I just moved here. I probably was here maybe like 2 or 3 days. So I end up, moving here, and I end up traveling down the road to a light place, right? Because I was trying to get my lights turned on. And I get there, and I go to the teller booth, and she was behind a glass. And I told her what I was there for. And she asked me for my ID. And of course, at the time, I didn't have a South Carolina ID. I still had a Mississippi license. And I told people before, I used to have dreadlocks back in the day. So I gave her my ID, and she saw the ID, and she looked at it, and she said, go, okay, I'm going to handle this, go and have a seat. So I'm like, I ain't think nothing of it. There's this young 16-year-old kid that came in there. He was paying a bill for his mama. So all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, wondering what's taking so long. All of a sudden, here comes 3 police officers just busting in the door, right? And they asked the young boy, first they go to the boy, they ask him, does he have ID? The young kid said, no, all I have is my high school ID. So he pulls it out. So they basically just went over there to that young kid, just to seem like they ain't trying to be, like they ain't profiling, right? But anyway, they go over to me and they ask me, what's my name? But when I looked in his hand, there was a copy of my driver's license in his hand. The lady copied my driver's license, and he had it in his hand. I said, well, you know who I am. I said, you got my ID, a copy of my ID in your hand. So him and the police officers, it was like, we're going to find out who you are. So I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So turns out they thought that I fit the description. And I wish I can show y'all this guy. I'm pretty sure I'll show y'all one day. But they thought I fit the description of a guy who robbed the bank maybe like 30 minutes up the road in Conway, South Carolina. And he shot a woman, that worked at the bank. Now, if I showed you this picture, this guy looks absolutely nothing like me at all. Like, seriously, like haircut, dreadlocks, regardless. Dude looks nothing like me. But I'll tell you, man, that goes to show you where my mind was at. Like, I told the story before, and if you didn't check out the episode where I talked about how I got to South Carolina, feel free to go into the archives and check it out. That goes to show you what my mind was. Because if I was like in my mind frame today, somebody would have got sued out the wazoo. Like, but they couldn't put a number on that racial discrimination suit I would have came through with. Boy. Like, seriously. But anyway, so turns out they thought I fit the description of this guy. That's not even the worst part. They profiled me, and the guy was arrested 2 days before I even got to town, even like before I even got in there. So the lady was like, oh my God. She was like, it's just the fact that he had dreads and you had dreads, and she was around that thing like showing other people the pictures. And I wish I can tell y'all that this was a black-white thing. It wasn't. The teller was a black woman. So I only can imagine, like, seriously, I only can imagine if maybe it was a blessing that I wasn't who I am right now, because I probably would have told them boys to get up out my face, and it probably would have ended up being bad. But I think about that from time to time. I think about what that could have went. Like it meant like I could have, like that could have ended a whole lot worse than what it did. But my goodness, boy, I tell you, that lady was touched by an angel. And then the thing about it is, this is the crazy part. Okay, so all the commotion that happened, right? All the commotion. You gotta keep in mind, she had my ID, so I'm driving, and I realized I didn't get my ID from him. So I drove back over there, right? And no, better yet, no, I didn't forget. They called me and told me that they had my ID. So I went back over there. Instead of her, like, as bold as you was to call 911 to possibly get me arrested for being a bank robber, instead, you sent somebody else outside to give me the ID because you didn't want to face me. That, like, all I'm saying is, man, like, that could have ended like a whole lot worse. And I understand that. But yeah, sometimes, man, it can be like that. Like they didn't think that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I told them what I was there for. I told them what I was there for, and they didn't even believe me. See, that's the thing. Like, they asked me, like, why you got a Mississippi license? I told them that I just recently moved down here because I accepted a management position, right? The store that I went to, it had been there for like 20, 25 years. The one manager that they had was there for a long time. He was a mainstay before he moved to another state. They didn't believe me. They didn't believe this black, dude with tattoos on himself, pretty, muscular built guy was going to be running this store, because it was in a predominantly white town and they weren't used to it. They did not believe me. Like, seriously, they did not believe that. But when I told my assistants, of course, like, they were very upset. Like, people, like co-workers that I worked with, they were very upset. But I just think about that from time to time. I think I missed out on some bread. Man, I think I missed out on some money. I ain't mad about the whole encounter. I'm just mad that I ain't capitalized. Because y'all realize, like, I could have owned the electricity company. Like, seriously, man. Y'all would have, like, I would have been the modern day Lewis Latimer, the modern day Thomas Edison around this thing. I would have owned that electricity place if I would have had the mind frame I had today. But at the time where, I was dejected, borderline nervous breakdown when I first got here. And my mind, like, I was just like, man, let me just get up out of here. Let me just go home. That's what my mind was. But boy, if I had the mind frame I had today, man, when they say, when she's when Barbara asked me about missed opportunities, that was one of when the whole term, what they call it, fumbling the bag. Yeah, I definitely fumbled the bag that day. I was sitting on a couple thousand right there. I pulled that camera out, boy. I pulled that camera out. That was a wrap. That was over with. Over with for everybody over there for the electric company. Oh boy. Y'all would have the name of the company called Santee Electric. It would have been TJ Electric around this thing. If you're black, you always fit the description. Oh man, but hey, I fumbled the bag that day. I definitely did. But they say, I feel you, Mama Jones. It's blessed that I was not there. I'm getting angry all over again. Jesus, take the wheel. Yeah, I mean, look, all I know is I could have had some money that day. I ain't look, give me my bread. Just don't, like, I'm not a real big fan of being crump like that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just feel like every time some, social justice situation happened. Ben Crump always in front of the camera. I don't know. I think there's a lot of prominent civil rights lawyers out there. I don't know why he the Michael Jordan of them or something. I don't know. But anyway, yep. Don't wear all black while being a black man either. Did it twice. Got stopped both times since I moved here to Houston. Man, they terrible out there in Texas. I ain't gonna lie. They terrible. They say they got an old saying in Dallas. They say, "Come on vacation, leave on probation." Good thing Mama Jones wasn't there with you, TJ. Things would be different. Yeah. Well, yeah. I probably would have got some money because she probably would have realized that there was discrimination, and she probably would have made me realize that, snapped me back into reality where I could have, got some money at the day. I don't care. Like, look, you won't profile me. You said that with your chest. You thought I was a bank robber, so I'm gonna say it with my whole chest. I want restitution. Seriously. But thank y'all so much for checking out the Therapy Couch podcast. Really do appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, youtube.com. Search the State of the Saints Podcast Network, where you can not only get the Therapy Couch podcast, but you can also get the State of the Saints podcast, Gumbo Pie podcast. And of course, the Therapy Couch podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp.com is the place to go. Like, look, check it out. Sometimes you can't talk to your family. Sometimes you can't talk to your friends. Sometimes you need an impartial individual to help you navigate through this thing called life. And that is what BetterHelp is for. You don't have to worry about going to an office. You don't have to worry about, getting in your car, gassing it up, going halfway across town. They're right there at your disposal. You take a questionnaire, and based on your preference, they put you in contact with someone that's impartial, that fits what you actually want, and you'll be able to talk to them. I encourage everybody to do that. Like, getting therapy is one of the best things that ever happened to me. I know some people look at therapy, all the stigma. Oh man, people think I'm crazy. Look, sometimes you need somebody to talk to, and BetterHelp is there for you. Okay, you use the promo code SOTS. I'll make sure that I put the link there for those that want to check it out. But you take a questionnaire, you'll save 10% off with the State of Saints podcast code. And once again, they'll set you up with the right person. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. I enjoy BetterHelp. I think the people are really helpful. They set you up with the right person. I don't care like what it is, like based on, religious values, like certain things that you're actually looking for in the therapist, things that you want to work on. They set you up with that. So once again, State of Saints Podcast, BetterHelp.com. Use that promo code SOTS. And also, you can also check out all the other content on episodes available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. Check me out on Twitter, TJAY Jones 8. And I appreciate everybody. And until next time, be happy and be healthy.